911 was a supernatural event, a sign. I mean, look at these pictures. You see a face in this one. Is that a spirit of the deceased, or what is that? This one doesn't look really friendly, does it? Actually, there's a couple in there that don't look so friendly. In this one, see what you may in it. Some people see holy figures, some people not so holy figures. And again, is it spirits of the deceased who are earthbound? This one seems clear to me, in the smoke coming out of the tower. And that makes it real clear to me on the face of the World Trade Center itself. Wow. You know, was there a face in this one also? I don't know. You take a close look at these, and these are also just some other angles on them. There were so many of these that one cop I know in the Bronx who was responding to the scene had a big collection of them, supernatural collection, and so many things happen there. We pray for the deceased, and we wonder what it all means and so forth. The rubble fell in such a way as two of the beams stuck in the debris, forming a cross. That was pretty interesting. Collapse of the World Trade Center caused a seismic pulse to damage the foundation of Federal Hall nearby, where the Bill of Rights were devised and where George Washington was actually inaugurated. Now look at the very date, the digits for an emergency phone call, 911. There were a lot of premonitions, people who, for some reason, were late that day, never were late for work, but were that day, and they missed the disaster, fortunately. Others had premonitions. They had dreams, vivid dreams. Or even, I remember talking to two guys out west who saw clouds looking like the towers just before it happened in the sky. So many others, so many dozens, so many people had inklings. There was a painter in Canada who painted it years before the collapse of these towers. I remember the mystic Maria Speranza from Venezuela. She was a friend of mine, and she told me that there was an enemy on the soil of the United States that was going to attack America. She said it was a small power that was attached to a larger country or force. And she even described it in depth to a group of pilgrims in the early 90s. Well, anyway, in December, the previous December to that, in 2000, she told me that the event was going to occur. And she described it, and then the following spring added a little more detail to it. And then in August of 2001, she sent me a fax saying the event I spoke to you about is now ready to occur. 3 weeks later was 911, a collapse of the tower. And she happened to be in Manhattan at the time. This is somebody from Venezuela. There was a story. I interviewed the wife of a guy named Tom Burnett out west in California. He was an executive at a small medical device company. And he was on business on the East Coast, and before that trip, a long time before that trip, he had premonitions that something was going to happen. He was not going to live long to be an old man. He told his wife that, and she had the same feeling. They'd never have the son that they wanted, and he'd never see the kids grow old. He even tried to double his insurance policy. He told her he would start going to church every day. Is a Catholic. He told her told his wife Dina that he felt he was on some type of a mission for God, and that it involved Washington, D.C., he thought, like the White House. Well, he ended up on that airplane, the one that crashed in a Pennsylvania farm field. He was in first class. And when he recognized what was going on, he led a group of those passengers to barge into the cockpit where those terrorists were, to keep them from turning back. The plane was turning back to the East Coast. And later, we find out it was targeting Washington. They think the Capitol. But because of these guys led by Tom Burnett, that plane crashed harmlessly onto that field, never did hit Washington, D.C. itself. And I think that most uncanny of all mystical, and this was reported in newspapers, was how this one professional photographer called himself Miraculous. He was at Ground Zero taking pictures, and he spotted this kind of mysterious stranger just beyond the barricades where you're not supposed to go, where only police and fire crew were supposed to be. And this is the days afterwards. And he was making music, this fella, and he tried to snap pictures of him, but his shutter on his camera kept jamming. This is a professional photographer. And this happened to a couple other people trying to take picture of this odd character beyond the barricades who was making music. The music he was making was like a dirge, and it was with a trumpet. He was blowing a horn, kind of like the Archangel Gabriel, kind of like announcing a different time, announcing something.